everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Geek Show for May. Hooray! It seems like we only just filmed just a few weeks back, and I think that's actually kind of true. How's everybody doing? We got Candice with us this month, which is fantastic.
Hey.
We got Eric Martin, and he had a dog there, which was very cute a few moments ago. And we got Stephen Bonacore. How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Doing
good. Awesome.
Pretty good.
I know Stephen just got back from a cruise. Oh, there's the dog. What a cutie.
My God, he's adorable. Tiny.
Sort of.
How was the cruise, Stephen?
Oh, it was amazing. It was Podfather, the cruise.
I know.
Second branded cruise. We had 49 people, so it's smaller than BGG cruise, very intimate. It's really great. You get to know everybody basically in the group and play games with everybody. It was fun, and it was Hawaii. So you don't go wrong with cruising the Hawaiian Islands, and then we end up coming back to Vancouver. So it was a spectacular time.
That's awesome. And so, how long was that one?
9-night cruise.
Okay.
And we added a few days on both ends
to see things.
Some more time in Hawaii, and then in Vancouver, which is a lovely city. I've never been to Vancouver, the city.
Nice.
So it was really cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. How you doing, Candice?
Pretty good. Just still waking up, sipping on my Spro right now, but
okay, a Spro.
hanging in there.
Bro.
Espresso.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a bad abbreviation. I will tell you that right now.
It's a slang that me and my friends use for espresso. We call them Spros.
Anyway, and how you doing, Eric?
Fine.
Okay, he's the least excited about everything right now. Well, we got some fun news this month. I mean, so first off, GG news. We just announced today the winners of the Golden Geek Awards. I have the list right here. So we'll go through it kind of quickly. The two-player game of the year was Sky Team. The runner-ups were Star Wars: The Deck Building Game and Undaunted Battle of Britain. The artwork and presentation winner was Castle Burgundy Special Edition. Runner-up Earth and Voidfall. Cooperative game was Sky Team, not a surprise there. Runner-up was Earthborn Rangers and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. Expansion winner, Ark Nova Marine Worlds. Runner-up was the Missing Expedition from Lost Ruins of Arnak and Cascadian Landmarks. Innovative winner was Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. Runner-up was Sky Team, and the other runner-up was, Sky Team, a lot of stuff. Earthborn Rangers. Light Game of the Year, Thunder Road Vendetta, which I know Steven loves. Runner-up, Nar and Faraway. Both games I think, I've played Nar, haven't played Faraway. I've heard Faraway's good. Medium winner was Earth. Runner-up was Castle of Burgundy Special Edition. That game, I guess it didn't win when it first was up 10 years ago or whenever it was. And the other runner-up was White Castle. Heavy game of the year was Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. Runner-up, Dune Imperium Uprising. And the other was Darwin's Journey. Wow, there's a lot here. Party game, That's Not a Hat, was the winner. Dixit Disney Edition was the runner-up, and Nikojima was the other runner-up. Print and Play was Waypoints. Runners-up, Fliptown and Naturopolis. Solo game winner was Legacy of You. I didn't know Brian and Dale Yu had a game. Earthborn Rangers and Earth were the runners-up. Thematic game, Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. Wow, that's the real winner. It's won a bunch too. And then runner-up, Sky Team and Dune Imperium Uprising. War game was Undaunted Battle of Britain. That was the winner. Halls of Hegra and British Wake Counterinsurgency at the End of the Empire were the runners-up. Cast was the one-stop co-op shop. And the runner-up was Beyond Solitaire and Talk Cardboard. Something was edited there. So that's exciting. Cool. So the interesting thing about the podcast is when you win, that is it. You can't win again. So the Brothers Murph were trying to win with their This Game is Broken podcast, and when they finally want to go, so you can finally stop talking about trying to win. But it's still exciting, and a lot of great winners there. So congratulations to everyone. So Eric, do we have any BGG news that besides the SDJ? I mean, that's coming up too. SDJs will be announced. The nominees will be announced June 15th, I think, which is interesting.
Around then. Much later than normal.
Yeah.
Or why, but they changed.
That would be this weekend normally.
Yes. But
and we'll be next year, supposedly.
So other news, so just game news in general, the biggest thing was probably the announcement of the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Re-implementation of Seven Wonders Duel from Antoine Bauza and Bruno Cathala, and Repo Production. All they had was a cover image. That's it. There's nothing else. Little picture of Gollum looking all excited, his usual self. And that's it. But if you know Seven Wonders Duel, then you're probably already interested. Or if you like Lord of the Rings, you're probably already interested. So there you go. All they had to do was show that picture. And
everyone got excited.
Money.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. What else do we have here? Another licensed thing, The Mandalorian Adventures by Corey Konieczka and Unexpected Games. So that's a storybook format. If you have seen The Mandalorian, you probably know what you're doing. You're entering a strange town. There's a beast that's doing something, and some people harassing you, and you're going to shoot stuff.
Well, I love storybook style, paragraph style games. So that to me sounds fantastic.
Well, speaking of paragraph games, good segue, Stephen. Tales of Myth and Legend. That's right. Tales of Myth and Legend was announced by Van Ryder Games. It's designed by, Michael Guigliano, Keith Ward, and Bobby West. It's a paragraph game based on Greek mythology, and it's been in the works for years.
Wow.
So AJ Porforio mentioned that he had hoped to get something like this submitted back in like 2019. He put out a request, essentially. I want something like this. And someone brought him something like this. And of course, development on a game of that style takes because there is so much to actually write and check and make sure that everything flows correctly. Paragraph game, if you're not familiar, you're going to be encountering a situation, sort of choose your own adventure style. You're going to pick something, things will happen, story will evolve. You go in different places, encounter people, monsters, places, all sorts of stuff. That's crowdfunding in 2024, out in 2025.
Wow.
Similarly, Tales of Arthurian Legends is now back on the WizKids release calendar for end of 2024. Andrew Parks designed this, and it was announced originally like beginning of 2023, and then it kind of fell off the radar, and now it's back on there. So another paragraph game, all inspired, of course, by Tales of the Arabian Nights from long, long ago.
Yeah.
The only, other standout title mentioned, it's a new Jamie Stegmaier design called Vantage, coming from Stonemaier Games, also due in 2025.
Yeah.
Where you have 1 to 6 people who are on a spaceship that is crashing onto a planet, and you are all in escape pods and all go in different directions. And all of you are doing things, but not together. So you're each doing your own thing, and you can share information with other people on your communicator, I guess. But you're not with them. And then something. That's it. Very general description. Maybe you can imagine something like the Seventh Continent, where you're slowly going to explore a landscape and have that come around. We'll see. It's all just mysterious.
Like every one of the games you're mentioning speaks to me.
Steven's ready for
it. I can't wait. Take my money.
Yeah.
That's right. There you go.
Exciting.
A few titles.
That's pretty exciting. There's that. I mean, that I know. We'd heard about the new Stonemaier game that it was, and it's Stegmaier. He actually designed it, right?
Yes.
Long time in development too. Another very long development, which is exciting. And isn't it basically just an image as well that got everybody excited? So
it's pretty much just, it's a new Stonemaier game. Here's the cover, short description. He's announced it early because he says, I've got a lot to say about this game because it's been in development for years. So
cool.
Super excited about it. Yeah.
Well, Steven, do you have any industry news for us? I didn't give you an opportunity to introduce yourself as normal, and I interrupted you last show, so you should tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Retired, Mr. the most busy retired man I know.
I'm Steven Bonacore. I'm the podfather of gaming. I am the chairman of the board for Play2Z, new
that sounds like work to me, Steven. That sounds like
work. Doesn't count. I don't get paid. And I'm also on the board of the World Series of Board Gaming. And you can catch my YouTube channel and all the stuff that I do. And Board Games Insider, powered by BoardGameGeek now.
Oh.
So, all right. That's a lot of stuff. Too much. Like you said, too much, Bonacore. Just go on. So what we have this week, so after, only being on about 2 weeks ago or so, that we got together and we had the earth-shattering news of all from Embracer Group splitting off Asmodee in 3 different companies, splitting off Asmodee and Middle Earth Enterprises and everything else into 3 different companies. I didn't think I'd have a lot, and then I went back and took a look at all the stuff that we've talked about since then on Board Games Insider, and we do. Embracer Group, again, of course, they are the biggest, so as they move, we have to talk. One of their entities, Middle Earth Enterprises, right? So this is not board gaming related, but it's part of them. They confirmed that Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Pippa Boyens will return to produce feature films in the cinematic universe of The Lord of the Rings, which, of course, is something that speaks to me greatly. 2 movies coming out. I know this is not board game related, but the board game associated with these things will be coming out. You know it. There's going to be a regular live action movie, The Hunt for Gollum, in 2026. The end of this year, I believe, the War of the Rohirrim, animated in December 2024.
Prequel,
that takes place, prequel 200 years before The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and that kind of stuff. So just quickly on that one, and the games will be coming out from Asmodee probably at the same time. So watch for those.
Yes. Going back to Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth, I was initially just like, wait, is that the one Lord of the Rings thing that I know about that hasn't been announced yet? But no, that's another thing.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a bunch of Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings stuff. Apparently people like it. I don't know.
Yeah. Apparently people like Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to continue mentioning it during this show. You'll see why in a couple of minutes.
Weekend at Gollum. You can have all sorts of movies that come out.
It's possible. Other things that happened that are of at least certain amount of interest. Gamma Expo, right, which is run by Gamma, the industry for gaming, has moved their dates. Now that doesn't sound like, so who cares? They moved their dates. Well, they did it specifically because they had such a huge Gamma Expo this year. It broke all records, and they realized that the dates for next year, in 2025, were going to coincide with the New York Toy Fair. And a lot of people would want to do both, especially retailers, because retailers go when they have a shop that also carries kind of mass market stuff. And that's really what the New York Toy Fair is about. So they have moved those dates back a couple of weeks so that people can go to both. But Gamma has been crushing it. The Gamma Expo since over the last couple of years has been getting bigger and bigger. And this past year in Kentucky, right?
Louisville. Yeah.
Was it Louisville, Kentucky? Lexington, Louisville. I always forget which one it is. Did extremely well. So they wanted to make sure they capitalize on that and not counter program.
Well, there's also an issue too that they had added space at the last minute for this year's show, but that was not contracted for the next 2 years. And they could only get that by moving the date.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you, Eric.
Yes. Otherwise, they would have had a smaller space. They fit in way more exhibitors at the show. It's like 1/3 more at the Louisville location, and they would not have had that space for 2025. And so,
thank you for that.
Definitely.
They moved. They get more space.
Did New York Toy Fair shift dates as well? Wasn't it early in like mid-February?
No, it was usually like the 3rd week of February.
Okay.
But then, it was in September in 2023 because it skipped a year and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It was right before Spiel, which was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And then it coincided with Gamma. It's hard to have a free week because depending on what part of the industry you're in, you go to Astra, which is more like, a toy show.
In August. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I think, Astra earlier as well. And then there's like a Los Angeles Toy Fair, and there's a London Toy Fair, and there's Nuremberg, and you can,
It's very difficult to find those free weekends, but I like the fact that they moved this to help out at least the North American market.
Yes. Yeah. And then they are also now staying an extra year, as they were like, okay, we moved, that's cool, but can you stay an extra year to make it worth our time and so forth? There's all that little convention.
Negotiation, yeah.
Yes.
Very good. So Wizards of the Coast addressed generative AI in an FAQ. And the takeaway here is that nobody is going to be happy with what they said. But Wizards of the Coast, of course, the publishers of Magic the Gathering, owns millions of artwork at this point. Millions. Their FAQ basically stated, we can't guarantee that everything is completely done by human artists. However, we go through a process, we vet things, we try to make sure it is. If you believe something is not done by a human artist and has AI influence, let us know, we'll investigate. So it essentially made nobody happy, but at least they were transparent to say, hey, we are trying. This is the policy. We are not going to have AI art, but things will sneak in when you have over 1 million pieces of art in the catalog. So
that's right. All those freelance artists, you're not watching all the freelance artists.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible if you think about it. So I mean, I think it's very fair for them to make a statement like that, but of course nobody the end up being unhappy, but they can't do it. They have thousands of pieces of artwork probably go across their desk every week. Thousands. How is it possible for them to know? Are they going to need an AI to look at the AI art to make sure that it's not AI art? I mean, it's right. So at some point it gets a little crazy. So they put out the policy. Let's see how that goes.
They also changed publishers, right? For the D&D books now. They're not doing them through Penguin or something anymore, so they're going to change availability or something like that.
I seem to recall that, but I don't have that knowledge. That's just right. That's just who is printing them. They're probably going to be available in all of the same locations.
I think they were saying wider, though, for some reason. I don't know why that was the case, but I don't remember what the change was.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the story is on. Anyway, that was just something I remember hearing, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not hard to find all the D&D locations, right? Of course, there's the mom and pop shops, there's Amazon, there's Barnes and Noble type stores. They're all over the place. But yeah, I think I remember that, but I don't have any details on that. A really cool thing happened, and that is launching the Tabletop Game Designers Association.
Yeah.
That's the TTGDA. What is this thing? So Jeff Engelstein, Elizabeth Hargrave, Sen-Fong Lim, and a couple of others were mentioned too. Tom Lehman was mentioned. A lot of very notable game designers came together to launch this, and many others are already part of it as well. And this is not a union, an association.
Is it like Zaz?
It is just like Zaz, and now we have to explain what that means, of course. That is the European version of this, which basically is a great place for a designer, a game designer, to go to get advice, to get sample contracts, to view best practices. Ostensibly, it's so that game designers get a fair shake in the game industry, as of course they should. While no one's accusing publishers, certainly not the majority of publishers, of doing the wrong thing, this is ensuring that game designers just have access to all the resources that the publishers have, because they have deeper pockets to do different things legally and stuff like that with contracts, but they'll have availability to get advice on various things. So I truly applaud this. And Jeff Engelstein and Elizabeth and Sen-Fong, they've been working on this for a while. So this is a very, very cool thing that is starting. And if you want to find out more about this, I don't have the right link. I only have the news links right here, but it is Tabletop Game Designers Association, TTGDA. You can go Google that. And as a game designer, you'll have good stuff.
Well, Zaz originally was the reason why designers started getting credit. They didn't get credit at all before. I mean, there might not at all, because they did have some examples of a designer being credited, but that was a big deal too. And I hope this does the same kind of thing and helps the designers out a lot, especially new designers. They really don't know what they should be doing necessarily, and not having a connection to to help make sure that they have the right kind of deal for them is hopefully this will help them out a lot. And hopefully they have some internship type things, for new designers and stuff as well. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just going to say, so what Lincoln is mentioning is SAZ, the Spielautorenzunft. It's primarily a German organization, but it is European as well. Right. Designers from anywhere can sign up, but it is primarily German. And so the TTGDA is more designers, North American designers. At least that's what it seems to be from setup. So
exactly, and it's modeled after SAZ too. So it's I think it's going to be a great resource for new designers, especially, but even seasoned designers will get something out of this, and you can sign up on their website.
Well, mentorship and things might be a big thing too. I hope that kind of stuff happens. It'd be great.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, anything else?
Let me give you one more. Kickstarter halted a campaign that was ostensibly about NFTs and AI art. So there was a campaign there that it was for a
TCG as well.
A CCG, TCG style game, and it funded in 30 seconds, and nobody had heard about it. And 50 backers that brought in like $8,000 each to fund this thing immediately. Ultra
sketchy.
Sus, we'll just say a little sus. And when you look deep, very sus. When you look more deeply into it, as Kickstarter did, they have to protect their platform. They were selling NFTs on it, which is not exactly part of the way Kickstarter is supposed to, work. It's against certain rules that they have. And there was AI art, and it was not declared. AI art must be declared. You can use it, but it must be declared on the platform that you're doing it. So they canceled the whole thing. I think it was like $4 million had already been backed or something crazy like that.
I think it was. And it was $1.4 million.
1.4. I'm sorry, 1.4. I have a couple of notes here. Couldn't tell what that was. So $1.4 million had already been backed, but boom, canceled. And they can't. This is not an acceptable campaign, and the entire thing the money just came in like that. So which means it got all this hype, and everybody then backed it. So it spiraled and stuff like that. So not good. So kudos to Kickstarter for doing that very quickly before the campaign actually closed out.
Wow.
It is. Well, I mean, I think it was a ways away from finishing because we were looking at it as well and wondering because it had a huge team, and how many companies starting out from scratch. Now, it seemed like it was part of another, like a NFT type situation before that. So some of those people are from that venture as well. So yeah, it's weird, and I'm a lot of people were questioning it. So ultimately, it was an interesting thing that it even launched. You would think that Kickstarter would, with all those types of things that seem obvious, because people were desperate just to see gameplay. That was what everybody was asking about in the comments, just to see how does this game play. They had video of people playing, but they didn't actually show any kind of things happening. But yeah, it was an interesting campaign.
Yep, exactly.
Who knows what they'll do with it? I mean, that had to have been a lot of money spent to just get to that point, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool. What, Eric?
I got one other thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Simon bought Japan brand.
Yeah.
That was another thing as well.
Yeah.
That just like, oh, okay. I mean, Simon had already opened a Japanese division a couple of years ago, and now they bought Japan brand, which essentially is an agency that represents Japanese designers to try to license them to companies outside of Japan. So
that's a really good story. I thought we mentioned it last time, but you're probably right.
Not here, so maybe
you're probably right, and we didn't. I just missed grabbing that one as well. Significant because publishers from across the world, particularly across North America, at Essen, at the Spiel in Essen, we would flock to have meetings with Japan brand, which represents, as Eric just said, many, many, many designers. There's sort of a clearinghouse or an agency for game designers all over Japan. And will other publishers now have access to Japan brand? I have a feeling not, since now all those designers are going to come directly to CMON
maybe
with their designs, or maybe not, or maybe
CMON
after not being able to sell them.
CMON didn't really. They stopped doing the smaller games. So
CMON will just get a cut of the action. I cannot imagine CMON doing like little card games and
they tried it at one point, but they just didn't really succeed. Well, Candice, do you have any news for us?
Yeah. I've been a little bit out of the loop and not on social media much, but I knew I was hopping on for this, so I did a little research. Couple things going on in the historical gaming space. One just yesterday, so we're recording on May 14th. So just last night, voting closed for the Charles S. Roberts Awards, which is like a wargaming award for conflict simulation games, excellence in conflict simulation games. So this year, so they were basically looking at games released in 2023. And it's like split into different categories. Like they have period awards where they're looking at, okay, ancients, medieval, World War II games. What are the best Civil War games? And then they have another category that's mode awards, where it's looking at kind of sort of more styles like operational games, tactical games, political games, cooperative games. And it's picking out whoever's best for that. And then they have like a capstone award group, which goes to people like game designers for outstanding presentation, playability, and design, and then like a breakthrough designer and everything. So that's cool. I don't know what the results are yet. A couple years ago, the head of the CSR awards changed, and the previous guy, I can't remember his name right now, used to like email me and like loop me in with everything going on with that, so I could like write about it in BGG News. But I haven't heard anything, so I'm just like catching tidbits on Twitter. But that's cool. I'm
Twitter?
glad that it's X. My bad. And then SD HisCon, which is San Diego Historical Gaming Convention, they're hosting a Second Front event. It's an online convention on June 8th. They've been, I think, since about the pandemic-ish time period, they've been doing online conventions like twice a year that are really successful because people join from worldwide. You could check out demos of new games. There are lots of like seminars and everything. It's only $10, and there's a lot going on in the day. So that Second Front event is June 8th. And then something I'm really excited about. A lot of people in this space know about the coin series like Cuba Libre. And that was started by game designer Volko Runke, who's like one of my favorite designers. And he's just like a brilliant designer, especially when it comes to creating like systems and making like series of games. So, the coin series was first, and then there's the Levy and Campaign series, which started a couple years ago, which is all about more the like logistical aspects of war and different time periods. And now he has a new series starting with a new game called Coast Watchers. And I think it's going to be called the Recon series, and it's all about intelligence. And this one's going to be in the South Pacific. And, it's just looking at the Allied intelligence teams, kind of like figuring out what the Japanese are doing and everything. And it sounds really fascinating. Apparently it was demoed at Circle DC. And I know like Edward from Heavy Cardboard talked about it a bit. I read about it. It sounds really cool. There's already a second game announced that's in this series, which is something World War I related in Verdun. Draken. I don't know if it's Drachen or Draken. But anyway, I just think like Volko is just doing some really cool stuff. So I love the idea of this. A couple of years ago, Atlantic Chase came out, and that was such a different system because it's like, again, focused on intelligence and trying to figure out, well, where is that submarine? And it's just such a like a unique kind of game. So I'm very curious to see what this new series is like. And then I guess speaking of South Pacific, the artist and graphic designer Nils Johansson posted a teaser for Guadalcanal, a new game. It's going to be the next game in David Thompson and Dan versus Games, Verson Games, not Verson. That their Valiant Defense series of these solo games that David Thompson created. They're really good. They're usually some kind of different aspect of World War II, and they're like very accessible, like really, really solid solo games like Castle Itter, Pavlov's House, Lanzerth Ridge. So that is exciting for the solo gamers and the David Thompson fans. And the last thing I'll mention is, and I think I talked about this before, but there's an online platform for playing a lot of historical games called Rally the Troops. And it's just cool. Just like, that like how Board Game Arena, we keep seeing like more and more games going on that platform. Rally the Troops, they're rolled out at a slower pace, but there are more and more games. Like you can play Votes for Women on there. You can play Plantagenet, which is the newest game. They're just like, there are a lot of games like Pax Pamir. And the Shores of Tripoli. So there's lots that are still coming on that platform, and I've played on it before, and it's a really good interface. If you're looking to play online, Rally the Troops is great. Way better to me than Vassal, where you can find a lot of like historical games and war games. That's kind of what's going on in the historical gaming space.
Thanks, Candice.
Cool.
Sure.
So now we're at the point of the show where we talk about what we've played recently. Steven came back from a cruise playing games, but Candice, have you played anything recently that you enjoy?
Yeah. So I've been back on a Flesh and Blood kick, and I'm still loving Keyforge. But outside of those, I just played the new, the new base game for Battlecrest, Metron. And Battlecrest is a button-shy wallet game. And it's just cards that make up the board. And this is a 2-player tactical skirmish game with perfect information. There's like zero randomness. And it's kind of reminiscent of Summoner Wars. But like in this little tiny package, you have asymmetric heroes. There's another base game of this with heroes that you can play and you can mix and match, like lots of expansions. The board is modular based on 6 cards you'll lay out. And then you're kind of moving your hero or character around this board, and you're trying to like eliminate your opponent more or less. But it's really, there are a lot of like clever things. Like when you take actions, you'll exhaust a card, you'll rotate it, and that reveals a battle crest that maybe another one of your actions is buffed because it's like for each of those icons, this is stronger. So there's lots of cool stuff like that. And then once all your cards are exhausted, or earlier, you can take a focus turn where you flip the cards over to the opposite side and refresh them upright. And now they have like different actions that are available. And also like the way you track your health is really clever because you have a card that kind of moves across slots. And then once it hits a certain level, it flips over and resets. And then like when it gets to the end, you're dead. But it's just like this game just continues, like all of the different heroes that they have for it. They all play like very different. This is just right up my alley kind of game.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I played this, and then I also tried for two other Battlecrest Button Shy games, Hierarchy and Amphilion. And Hierarchy was really, really cool because it's just a deck of, I want to say 18 cards, but the cards are double-sided, and one side's green, one side's purple, and it has like these different characters, almost like citadels. Like you have a queen, you have, these different characters, and they have effects, and you shuffle the cards, deal them out. Like I take purple side, you take green side, my opponent takes green side, and you're playing one card at a time. Like you're kind of splaying them. And you're trying to, you have to always beat the card because you're trying to like be the last one standing, and different cards rules. It's so clever and so neat. And then the other one's like Amphilion, which is like this kind of tug of war game that you're trying to pull certain characters to you. All the character cards have different actions on them that you can use. Really, like I'm so blown away with what people are doing with these Button Shy and just any of these small games that are just cards, because they're so creative and clever with the kind of games they're making.
Minimal components.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny how it's funny. We had a big thing that happened when Love Letter first came out with micro games, but now the Button Shy games are fantastic, and they keep bringing them out.
Yeah.
And keep getting new ones, and that really sounded great. I assume it's a 2-player war-like game that you can play with 18 cards only. That's really cool.
It's so cool. Good reminder. Like that's what Hierarchy kind of reminded me of slightly, because it's like all the cards like, oh, you can only play this on top of this. Usually you have to play a higher card, but this one character you play you can only play a lower card on it. And yeah, they're all like super solid. I think unfortunately Hierarchy is out of print.
Oh.
But
well, is it Button Shy as well?
Yeah, these
they
are
do.
all Button Shy
I mean,
games.
I didn't end up backing it, and I meant to. The Rove one, they did like a kid version
great.
stuff, and that one ended so quickly. I was like, because I got the notification, but I didn't back it soon enough. I've blown 2 backings in the last few weeks. I'm bummed. Eric, have you played anything exciting?
Yes. Speaking of games that have 18 cards, sorry. So it's a game coming out called Compile, subtitled Main 1, because there'll probably be other sets, by Michael Yen. Greater Than Games. This will debut at Gen Con. Got a preview copy. I played it 3 times. It's a 2-player game. You're going to have a deck of 18 cards, but it works a little differently in that, like Rift Force or other ones, you have 12 factions. You can see some of these. Tasty. Tells you what the deck specializes in. You're going to draft 3 you'll just lay out 6 at random. You'll take turns drafting 3. You take the cards associated with those 3, and then you lay these cards out as lanes, and you are trying to play strength into the lanes, eventually have 10 strength on them, and you flip it over and you compile it. And if you compile all 3 first, then you win. And the cards, see the RA in here for some, they have a strength at top. They have a come into play effect. They have an ongoing effect while this is visible, but once you play a card down, then you play it on top and you only see the bottom thing. And so if there's a bottom thing there, then that continues, but otherwise you just lost this ability. So similar to Innovation, swaying stuff over the top. So very simple lane battler, but very neat as you mix the different cards together because they all have different powers, and it's pretty cool.
Neat.
Sounds cool.
There you go.
Shorty games. What, Steven, have you played anything exciting on the cruise? New?
Well, of course I have. First of all, I got 2 games of War of the Ring in. We cannot mention Lord of the Rings enough, of course. So I got 2 games. But also, you won't recognize this from this, but you might recognize it from this. I played the One Ring 2nd edition role-playing game.
Oh, wow.
And so the Free League came out with the second, 3 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. And I've just starting to really crack open this stuff. I did not GM the game, but I really want to try. I haven't done that in a long time. And of course, this is set in Middle Earth, and you can play it various times. Normally, you're playing it between the time of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books, but you, of course, can change that. And they've come out with many, many supplements. And on the cruise is this really cool guy, Patrick, DM for us for a nice 4-hour session, and it was wonderful. Low magic, in that universe. So, and it's a low power game too. It's not all about destroying things. It's about using your wits to get through puzzles. And it's a lot more sense. And I love D&D. I love it. I've been playing since forever, like first edition. But
wow,
right now, this kind of thing.
You're that old.
Don't lie. I'm
Did you play Smeagol in this one?
I played a grumpy dwarf.
Okay. That works
in this
too.
Particular one. Yes, it kind of works. Yeah, I'm short and I'm grumpy. No, I'm neither. So yes, I really enjoyed this, and I'm really leaning myself these days to rules light systems. Now,
sure.
I just D&D 5 is wonderful, but there's a lot going on. I also am in a Pathfinder 1 game. And it's just too big now. It's too much going on. My brain cannot take the amount of math you have to do in Pathfinder. You're like, where am I? Do I use my power attack? It's just there's too much stuff going on. This is a more rules medium system, so I'm really happy with this. And of course, I love the IP, so I can't wait to really, really get in and explore this more. So the One Ring Second Edition role playing game. Phenomenal. I also played Tishu, the card game, the partnership card game, and I'm now a convert. I've been always saying like, oh, it's so overrated. I don't know why people like it so much, but I really got into it. Jeff Anderson, who runs BoardGameGeek Con and BGAC, and he ran my cruise, and he explained it to me magnificently and what you have to be thinking about. And now I'm officially a convert. Tishu is phenomenal. Partnership, 4-player partnership card game. So that's my two new loves that I've embraced over the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's awesome. We played a new one that's coming from Queen Games. I guess it's available in Europe already, but I guess it's coming to Kickstarter in the States. It is it's called Dabawala, the Mumbai Food Express, and you are trying to deliver food. So you're taking orders, and you can see here this guy's got a stack, which are containers that have the food in it. It's near lunch here, and I'm excited and I'm hungry. So this is a bad game to talk about. But what you're doing, essentially, is you're just building your orders on these. There's varying styles of carts. These are like, if you go with the more difficult one, there's also smaller so that these would get taller. But basically, you're only going to be selecting 15 cards and then taking polyomino pieces and placing them on the board and trying to get it so that you will have a synergy with the other players delivering, because you're going to take in 15 cards, and each card tells you what size of Daba that you're collecting. So there's smaller ones, there's larger ones, there's more complex ones. But what happens is, during the 15 cards that you're doing, you're just selecting these cards to then fill your cart. You will then spend use these same cards to influence the cost in the second half of the game. It's not really the second half of the game. You're only going to play one card per level. And in the game we played, I just barely reached 5, and others had gotten to level 5. And then you play 5 of the cards that you're going to do and hope that you score the points right. They're only going to max at 4, but there's also some little tokens that could bump the value a little bit. But you're going around collecting the food at these cards from these different 6 locations, and you have to move, obviously, each turn, so you can't stay and pick something up. But you're really hoping to organize it so that you will match with others, because you want to have, you also don't necessarily want to have that, right? Because everybody's scoring the same kind of thing. And it's a real challenge. Like, understanding how these cards are going to affect you later, right? You're never going to have something match. It's yellow dabas, and I guess it's different types of food or something like that. I can't remember. There's actually a pretty great thing. Rajiv has recipes in it, and there's explanations of how this stuff works. But like if you get these larger ones, they have 0 influence. So you're adding a lot to your cart, but you're not going to be able to use this card to influence what you get paid. There's also these little chai, so there's a little half cup of tea there, and if you line them up, you draw one of the little tokens that can either give you a instant reaction where you can load in 1 square piece that indicates that it was from a chai token, or it could be things that could affect the scoring later. And that was where we got hammered. Someone in the game really did really well with that. And she wasn't even thinking about the bottom of the cards. She was more, it was just interesting how it all worked out. And so I was a little frustrated, like, wow, only 5 cards. And I had quite a few blue deliveries, and I couldn't, banking on that I would get the blue cards that would let you score. Well, it turns out you take out a certain amount of cards, and like all the high scoring, except for maybe 1 blue ones, were out of the game. And so I couldn't really make them worth that much. Now, they weren't weak, but it wasn't as strong as it needed to be. So it was really interesting. So I was frustrated with that, but then the more I think about it, the more I want to play it and see how it works, and try like the one that has only 6, because then you would go much higher. So more of your cards would actually affect the payouts. So it's pretty neat, and it's really light, actually. It's a pretty light family game. It was designed by Patricia Limburger and Felix Leader. And Patricia is the artist at one of the artist directors at Queen Games. And so I think this is her first game that they've published, which is exciting, because Annie and Sebastian, another art director, and her husband did Rap Racer, sitting around here somewhere. I think that's the name of it. And that was a real fun race game too. So they've got some within the company designers working lately, which is interesting. Anybody have anything else you want to share?
No. I guess I'll mention one thing that was really cool, and I didn't mention it on the podcast, the BGG podcast, but I got the opportunity to play Dune Imperium Uprising with 6 players as the 3v3 version, and someone Quentin that goes to BGG cons, I don't know if you know him. I met him through Steph, I think. He messaged me earlier this year and said, "Oh, I just played Dune Imperium Uprising with 6 players. It was awesome. You should try it," kind of thing. And I eventually, several months later, got to play it. And this is I do have a review copy of this, but it was so cool. When you play with 6 players, 2 players are commanders, and you're kind of playing a slightly different game where your 2 allies on your team are doing more of the regular like Dune Imperium game, but there's some rule changes that make it very thematic. And I was Muad'Dib commander, and a lot of the interaction, the way you can trade and help your teammates and stuff, was really cool. And it only took us, for a 6-player like Euro game, 3 hours to play. And so it was just cool. I really, really liked it. And it's something I want to revisit as a 3v3, because I love, it was really, really fun. And we won 22-18.
That's cool. Well,
seems akin to the Memoir 44. Where you also have 3 on a side. It's like a lead person.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
I've heard about that. Yeah, and there was this like one moment too where my teammate needed 1 spice to do something like crazy, and I was like able to like use my one-time agent to do something. I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Because this is like, once I spend this, it's done." And then I got him the spice, and something crazy happened. And yeah, I love the team interaction of it. Definitely worth trying.
That's great. I've only ever played the first game of those, so which I thought was fantastic. And I know that the new one, I listened to the podcast that you had with the Meeple lady talking about that, and I'm intrigued for sure. Well, cool. Go ahead, Eric.
I just thought of something. So it's 2024, 20th anniversary of Memoir 44, and Days of Wonder has announced.
Oh, wow.
So this is the non-announcement where people keep saying, like, is Memoir 44 dead? Is anything going to come out from this?
That is a shame, actually, because I think Memoir 44 is absolutely one of the best light war games out there. It's light, but it's supposed to be light, and I think it's just a fantastic kind of intro way of getting into wargaming on some level. So it would be a shame to see that it is truly dead. So that's a shame.
See. I ran into Richard Borg on the street at Gen Con 2023, and he would say nothing. So who knows?
Okay, maybe something's coming then.
That's right. Richard's great.
He is great.
We'll see what comes.
Well, awesome. And that's it for this edition of the Board Game Geek Show. Join us again next time. And I want to thank our co-hosts, Candice Harris, Eric Martin, and Stephen Bonacore. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, the puppy.